Welcome. My name is Daniel Droulet, and I'm the president of the Global Young Entrepreneur Society, an international organization supporting exceptional young people in achieving their entrepreneurial ambitions. Co-hosting the interview with me today is Lewis Swire, the director of GYES's UK operations and the editor-in-chief of the Curious Times. Our guest today is Stephen Hirth, the founder of S.H. Hirth Associates, an international merchant banking and advisory boutique, which co-invests with other families and high net worth individuals in small to mid-sized growth companies. S.H. Hirth Associates is very active in the family office world and co-investment arenas. Areas of focus include consumer products, health and wellness, food and beverage, agriculture, environmental/clean energy, and real estate. Stephen has taken part in small to mid-sized enterprise activities across the state of Connecticut, Southeast Asia, and the Republic of Austria, and earlier as Director of International Client Acquisition and Special Projects for Bank Austria. It was there that he was part of the core team to launch the first index tracking fund out of Central Europe. He earned his MBA from Columbia University Graduate School of Business and his Bachelor of Science from Northeastern University. Complementing his activities at S.H. Hirth Associates, Stephen manages his own single-family office and his family foundation, which focuses on domestic and international health and education, concentrating on assisting the elderly and very young. We are very pleased to welcome Stephen Hirth.
Gentlemen, it's lovely to be with you, and greetings from New York City.
It's great to have you on. How do you secure investment from family offices?
Unlike with large banks or VC funds or corporations, every family office is different. The same way today, I have the privilege of speaking with both of you gentlemen. Lewis, you're different than Daniel. You're sitting in different cities, in different countries. Same way with family offices. We sit in different parts of the world. We have different interests. So if someone wants to raise capital from a family office, first is find out in which areas does that family office invest. So for instance, I don't invest in alcohol products. Not that I don't drink alcohol. It's just, for me, it's a marketing game. And so I don't invest in alcohol. I don't invest in weapons. Security products, yes, but not in weapons. I won't invest in countries where I don't think there's transparency of the legal system. I have friends who won't invest in anything other than real estate or technology that is directly related to real estate. I have other friends that only invest in crypto and blockchain. So it's finding out what people want, and just goes back to communication, saying, here's what we're looking at. And one can also find out this in thousands and thousands of cities and towns. And one knows they invest in real estate here, they invest there. I had lunch yesterday with a gentleman who said he works with a family. They made their money in the pharmaceutical world, and they're so heavy in pharmaceuticals that now they want to start to invest in other areas, direct and private equity, and they don't know how. And so they came to me, and I said, I'll tell you from my perspective, and I'll introduce you to 2 or 3 other families so that they can understand how that's done.
How do you find information about family offices?
Most family offices are very private. Do Google research. There's so much information. Some families put a lot of their information out there, others do not. So I would recommend to your members, do research. Which family offices invest in real estate in Germany? Which family offices invest in pet foods in the UK, et cetera, et cetera. And then there are publications. One can look at Wall Street Journal, Forbes, et cetera. There are always articles about family offices. And again, it's asking, it's go to the local banks and speak with a banker and say, I have a company. I'm not yet looking for a line of credit. Do you know a family office that invests in an app that deals with wellness and health? They may say yes, they may say no.
How much do you expect founders you invest in to work?
Even when they're sleeping, I hope they're dreaming of the company.
Yeah, but we're entrepreneurs. That comes with the job, I guess.
Exactly. If one is an entrepreneur, you eat, sleep, breathe what you're doing. It's your dream. It's the same way most of your entrepreneurs are single. Their parents decided to have them. That means that came with accountability and responsibility. If one is going to become an entrepreneur and one is going to take other people's money, one has to realize there's now a greater responsibility because it's reputational risk, it's financial risk. You have to be there for that person and for the people who've invested. And if you have to work 7 days a week, if you have to be late for a birthday party or Christmas or Hanukkah or Ramadan, Eid or Cinco de Mayo, whatever it may be, you let the people know, I'm going to be late. I'll be there. I know it's important, but the business needs me right now. I'll be 2 hours late, but I'm coming.
If you would be starting out today, which parts of the world would you be focusing on?
With technology, you can focus on many places around the world. If you look at just the data, the youth of the world, those under the age of 40, are predominantly in Africa, in parts of the Middle East, and in Asia. So the Western world is changing. The world is becoming less white and more brown and black. And I would focus a lot more now on those parts of the world. If one wants to, again, it's one thing if it's an app, it's another thing if it's a product. There are great needs for the consumers and for infrastructure, et cetera, in Africa, in Central and South America, in the Middle East. I've met some phenomenally gifted women in the Middle East, sharp, astute, more capable than some of the guys. I met some great young men and women in different parts of Africa. People forget Africa is Cairo to Cape Town and everything in between. So, that is a large part of the world that one should look at. What's important, though, is go to parts of the world. Although China is a huge market, there's political problems in China. There's lack of transparency. There's not a proper legal structure. These are things that before you go there, minimize the risk. Go and do something maybe in another country where you will have problems, less problems, or problems that could be better managed. Mm-hmm. And again, if you're going to do something in a country that's not your own, find someone locally to help you and navigate and align with you.
Do you recommend entrepreneurs to get business degrees?
Some people need it, some people don't. I think there are some people who should get an MBA, absolutely, or get an international master's in management. There are one-year programs at INSEAD and at, I think, Bocconi or at Thunderbird in Arizona. Those are excellent and often overlooked programs, so I highly recommend those. MBAs are very good, but one needs to know why. They're very expensive in the United States, so you really figure out why one is going. Executive programs are excellent because for a variety of reasons. So I went to the Harvard program because a knife after many uses needs to be sharpened. So I had earned my MBA in 1993, and in 2010 actually, I went to the Harvard program. So that's 17 years later. A lot had happened in the world. And I needed to get some information, some education and empowerment. A lot of people, and that's why I went. Some people go to those programs because they don't have any master's degree whatsoever. So by doing a program, whether it's at Columbia, Stanford, Harvard, etc., there for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 9 weeks, there are different programs out there. They get a good overview. Others go there for networking. They're very expensive to do some networking. Some are good, some are bad. But one has to be, I believe it's from, we'll know this quote better than I do. I think it's from Hamlet. To thine own self be true. So as the day follows the night, so should you. What your entrepreneurs need to do is always be true to themselves and be honest. If they feel they need the MBA or they feel they need a master's, go for it. If they're going for networking, one doesn't have to pay for that, in my opinion. Go to different conferences, be communicative, follow through like in golf or tennis or even skiing. Those are key.
Thank you. Again, the power of being genuine and authentic in business really carries through.
No, the power of being genuine and authentic in everything you do carries through.
Yeah.
If you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend and you're not genuine or authentic with her, it's not a relationship. If you're not genuine or authentic with your parents, they love you, but they know that you're bullshitting them and lying to them, and you're doing it to yourselves. If you can't be honest with yourself, then you really can't be honest with anyone, can you?
That's deep.
How do you keep track of all the people you keep in touch with?
One is I keep a lot of it in my head, for better or for worse. Another is thankfully technology. You can put it in the calendar. I literally make notes. It's so-and-so's birthday. It's so-and-so's anniversary. I make a note to myself or sometimes in the computer. So-and-so's mother or father died, or her husband or his wife died on this day. And, it's that time when someone dies, everyone is there writing condolences, sending flowers, make a donation. I make a note to contact them 4, 6, or 8 weeks later, because that's when reality sets in. And they're like, wow, what now? And I just say, hi, I'm here. You want to talk? Let's talk. Which means I'm here to listen, not to talk. Make a note. If someone's important in your life, put it in the calendar. Text them. Text grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, whomever. Every Sunday, just say 3 to 3:15. Hi, Graham. Hi, uncle, auntie, or friend. Doesn't even have to be every week. Do it twice a month. They will become appreciative and you'll feel good about it. And again, it doesn't have to be long, just those little things. The little things make a huge difference. And in a world where we are moving so fast, and someone told me the other day, there's 10 billion data points of information every day. So much is lost out there. We can't even follow 1/1000th of it, 1/1,000,000th of it. But we can follow genuineness, acts of kindness, and making a difference. I recommend to your listeners and to your members, ask themselves in business and in many things in life, are we being transactional or are we being transformative? One can be a transactional. I go to the store, I buy a loaf of bread. That's transactional. I go to the store, I say hello to the sales clerk or to the baker or to whomever. Take a second to say thank you, or if I know them a little bit, how you doing? Did you see the game last night, or what do you think is going to happen? That's transformative. I've acknowledged them. It's the same in business. Are you investing in companies, or have you founded a company or doing a company that's going to help the world and have a positive impact?
Right, but a transformative thing and a transactional thing can exist at the same time together.
They are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
We can make them mutually exclusive, but we don't have to be.
What is your view on work-life balance?
I don't have one. I love what I do, and I don't consider it work. So my work is my play is my work. I'm speaking with both of you today. It's now part of my workday, but I find this very pleasurable. I'm learning as much from both of you, believe it or not, as you and your audience may be learning from me. We all find our own balances.
When we met at the Summit of Minds in Chamonix, you shared with us your free rules for business. Can you please share them with our audience?
One of them is be true to yourselves. Second is have committed convictions that are positive and powerful. And the third one is we all have dreams, or most people have dreams, I believe. Third one is don't be afraid to put yourself out there and be vulnerable. I'm not saying don't do something stupid or foolish, but make yourself, if you're an entrepreneur, take calculated risks, minimize the risks by aligning with people. Even if you disagree with them, respect them. It's better to align with people for whom you have respect. You may disagree with them the same way you can disagree with your siblings or your parents, etc., but there's still regard. So I tell people, marriage is cheaper than divorce. Just because you want other people to invest in your businesses, don't just take anyone's money, because there's a difference between being hungry and starving. If you're hungry, you can wait till you find something. When you're starving, you take whatever you can get, and that may not always be the best thing.
You founded an international merchant banking and advisory boutique. What is your story?
I did not plan. It was never my desire, my goal to build a company such as I have. It evolved. I'm first generation American. Both my parents came from Europe, and two of their philosophies and practices are, or I should say were, if you're healthy, one works, and if one is curious, one travels. And traveling meant even going to the neighboring town or towns. So I have been traveling since I'm 6 months old, and I've been working since the age of 8. And I've done a variety of things. I've traveled to many parts of the world, and I've done jobs such as painted barns, cleaned out a chicken coop of 150,000 chickens, worked in a bakery, I've been a dishwasher, did construction work. I've worked in retail. I've worked in, as you said earlier, the financial sectors and many other opportunities. Each one of these experiences has been educational and taught me a lot about myself and people. And I'm a huge believer of getting as much experience and exposure, because that makes one have a greater and richer education and empowers one. And through all of these, I've built up the business where I've gotten to know a lot about different people around the world. And as I was taught also by my parents, I treat the head of state as she or he is a cleaning person or construction worker, and I treat the construction person or the cleaning person as if she or he is the head of state. Everyone starts with respect. And in my world, it is how to communicate with other people, how to understand them, how to say, I don't know, I'd like to learn from you, and open oneself up. And thus it becomes enriching for me. And I've applied all of those, what experiences and what I've learned, into what today is a small firm where we don't advertise, because I've lived and worked around the world, because of how we communicate and treat people, because of my openness to learn and be exposed. We now are shown deals where other people have to go and source them. We are presented deals.
Growing up, you witnessed how your parents built a successful business. What lessons did you learn from your parents?
I would say a lot of them. There were many, although I have fantastic pieces of parchment from a august boarding school. I would say core educational experiences and knowledge came from what I learned at home. So as a young child, a little boy, my mother would take me, and this was very typical in Northeastern Connecticut, where I grew up, she would go and she'd knock on the neighbors' doors and ask, for, let's say, the American Lung Association, or for the local hospital or the small museum in town. And although my parents were very prominent and well known in the town and in the state, it was not beneath them to go and just knock on the neighbors and say, do you have a you could spare? And it showed me how she personally made herself visible and accountable. It wasn't a phone call, it wasn't an email. It was saying, I am personally committed, not just financially, but I and my husband and my family are personally accountable to support this. Will you join us? And oftentimes she wasn't asking for huge amounts of money, but it taught me it doesn't matter how much money one gives. It's that one wants to give and one wants to feel that they're contributing. Another time, my father, who used to take me, he built very large businesses and was nationally very well known. And he didn't have time for me. So he would bring me with him to meetings. And one of the meetings, I was, I think, 12 or 13 years of age. And it was in Washington, D.C. And he and some of his friends were hosting for some U.S. senators and congressmen and women a cocktail party before he and one of his friends were testifying before the Senate the next day. And I met some of the country's most famous senators. And for the next 5 days, I would be invited to them, to their offices, and I had breakfast or lunch with them. And I was the only child there, so I got a lot of attention. And it taught me how to, again, be respectful of these men and women. I had differences politically of their opinions, but nonetheless, that exposure prepared me later on in life when I used to go to other places. Wow. And yes, I was very fortunate. And maybe some of the members of your group might not come or have those opportunities. But I say, in everyone's town, in everyone's city, one can find these opportunities, and one can find people to talk to and say, I'd like to learn. Could you mentor me, or may I shadow?
How does a merchant bank work, and why did you decide to found one?
Before 1940 in Europe, there were some very famous houses, I call them. I regard them and refer to them as houses. They are called the Lazar Bank, Bank Rothschild, the Barings Bank, the Abs, the Abros. These are all very, very old, well-known banks. And before the days of the cell phone and email and all the technology that we have, what was very important is, what type of person are you? What name did you have? So if you were going from Hungary to Scotland, or Lewis was going from Scotland to Hungary and wanted to do business there, in those days, what would either of you bring? Maybe you couldn't bring your wares. Maybe you weren't selling shirts or something. You brought your reputation, you brought your family name, you brought your ethics and your integrity. And how do they know if you were a good person or not? So the old banking houses, if one was a client of the house or was known to them, they would write a letter of introduction. And that letter of introduction would be basically like the golden ticket in Willy Wonka, if you ever saw Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory. You would walk in with that envelope and you would present that envelope, and they'd open up the envelope and they would read not only about your businesses, but they would read about your ethics and values and how you were viewed in the community. And that was enough for them. Then all of a sudden, they took you far more seriously, and they looked at you with different eyes and did their best to work with you. And this is part of my experiences around the world, is that I went to many places. When I went to Southeast Asia, when I moved to Austria, when I went to live and study in the United Kingdom, when I went to the Middle East, I went into many countries where I knew not a soul, and I knew people, and they wrote years ago when I went to Austria the first time, there was not even computers. Computers were just starting, I should say. So they sent a fax or an email. And because of those introductions, doors opened. And then what I did is I started listening to people and asking questions, why, how, where, etc. And people started, it's not only what I asked. We have a saying in German that translates into English, the tone makes the music. When one asks a question, oftentimes the listener can hear if the person is genuine or not. And if someone is genuine, the recipient of the message will say, you know what? You seem like good guys. Yes, I'll speak with you. Yes, I'll give you the time. Let's do it. And they'll start speaking with you in a different way. And that's what I applied. And through that, people started confiding in me. And then they'd ask me about different opportunities and different, say, if I knew someone here, if I could advise them. And that's how I started to build the bank. And I was successful in Austria. And then I came back, and with my mother, my father had regrettably died far too young, and we created the family office. So we pooled capital, and then we started investing. But it was investing in companies or in industries where we had some value beyond just money. I had knowledge, I had experience, I had awareness, and also was the integrity and the ability to say to people, I don't have the answer, and I know who to call who can have the answer for you.
How do you build and foster relationships around the world?
Today, it's a bit easier, but it's also very much about accountability. In the English language, in the American English language, there's over 171 plus thousand words. And I have great respect and embrace my mother tongue. I also am guarded because people use too liberally today friends. This is my friend, that's my friend. Friendship comes with accountability and responsibility. And then also people, excuse me, write, this is my BFF. One has to learn through experience about what real friendship is when you go through some bad times. And it's not just reaching out to people when you want something from them. And today, there's nothing wrong that you write text messages, or I know a lot of people are on Instagram and on TikTok, etc. That's one type of communication, but genuine communication from my perspective is picking up the phone and calling, writing. Even my handwriting is terrible. It's like reading hieroglyphics. It's that bad. Yet I still write every year over 2,000 handwritten notes and cards to people all over the world. And even though they can't always read everything I write, that I took the time to write a note means the world to them. I got one today or yesterday from someone who's actually in Edinburgh who said, I can't believe you and your wife remembered my birthday. I'm so touched by this. He said, members of my own family don't remember. It's the same as going to the gym. Make it part of your life. Call, put a list together, let's say every Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and say, here are 4 or 5 people I'm going to call, not text. I'm going to call this week. Don't have to be long conversations, 5 minutes, catch up, etc. Text messaging is also good. That's very, very important. And that's also a key thing. And then I would say another point is that going through and having ability to, you don't have to be friends with everyone and communicate with everyone, but reach out. And also, I strongly encourage to take risks. And what I mean by risks, pick up the phone to someone at a company that they don't know, but that's of interest to them. And then ask for the secretary, or maybe you'll get directly to the owner and say, I'd like, please, 10 minutes of your time. I don't want anything but some advice. My name is whatever your name is. I'm this age of it. I'm interested in pursuing some getting an internship, but I don't understand enough about the industry. And I have two questions that I'd like to ask you. One is about your business industry, and the second one is specific about your business. Do you just have 10 minutes, please, to share with me? And most of the time, people will say yes. Maybe they can't do it right away, but let's say yes. And then afterwards, it's easy to quickly write a text message or an email. But if someone who is older and is giving you time, take a few minutes and write a handwritten note. It does not have to be Shakespearean prose, but write a simple handwritten note. Say, thank you for the time you've shared with me. I value you for giving me a few minutes. And from what I learned from you, from our conversation about these 2 points, contact with you sincerely, respectfully, whomever, and send it. The odds are that that person will ever forget you is slim to none, because very few people today write handwritten notes and are genuine with their gratitude. And usually the people with whom they're speaking are north of 40. So they come from a different generation. And they're going to say, you know what? This young man or this young woman went the extra distance. And then maybe 6 months down the road, write a letter or even an email. The second one is perfectly fine with an email to say, I want to follow up with you. Your advice helped me. I am working in this field. I found a job or an internship. And they're going to say, good. That's really nice that they listened to me. But now you have an open door, because that individual may say, they've gotten experience. Maybe you're good for my company.
How do you meet new people?
One can meet people everywhere. I've actually met people who've done business in the bathroom and sauna, where people have come up to me and said, hey, aren't you Stephen Hirth? Aren't you Hirth from? I say, yeah. I said, do you mind if I finish in the bathroom, or if I can please, have a few minutes alone in the sauna and the spa, and then we could talk later on. One can meet people where everyone goes. And therefore, I think going to conferences is great. I've met some fantastic people through my philanthropic. I would volunteer. I didn't have money to give, so I volunteered my time. And I met people who are my parents' ages or a bit younger, and we got talking about different things. And then they said, if you're ever looking for a job, call me. I wasn't looking for a job, but that they offered. And then later on, I called a couple and I got them. So one, I hate the word networking, but I prefer to use an acronym. When one does something well, have either of you heard the word hooray or hurrah, however it's pronounced?
Yeah.
The acronym I use for that is human resource allocation, because when you've done it well, hurrah, you should be proud of it. Humans are resources. By allocating the time and aligning them in a correct way, in a positive way, you can be very successful. So I believe in meeting people wherever, but be genuine, ask. Many people have parents who their friends working, say, can I have a few minutes of your time? I'd like, you work in the insurance world, you work in aerospace, you work in bakery business, you are a truck driver. It's something that's of interest to me. I'd like to learn, ask some questions. Most of the time, people will give you the time. And then that's the follow-up. If anyone plays tennis or golf or any sports, oftentimes what makes a good swing is the follow-through. The follow-through is how you acknowledge the people who've given you the time.
30 attributes of a successful entrepreneur.
Passion, ability to dream, embrace failure, and learn from it and do better. Know that you can't do it all yourself. Find people who can do it better. If you're not good quantitatively, I'm sure you find someone, you have a friend who's a really good analyst. Go after and ask her or him to join you. Build a team. Do research. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to scream. Make sure you laugh, and make sure you ask for help if you really need it. And it's how you ask for it. More people want you to succeed than you can imagine. And most people are not clairvoyant. They can't read minds.
What do you need to build a successful international business?
First, build your local business. Before one goes international, build, secure it. When the Allies were going to attack and do their best to repel and destroy the Axis parties, the Nazis, Germany and Italy and Europe, they needed to figure out what they were going to do and how. And the goal was secure the beach of Normandy. Once they owned the beach of Normandy, then they could go forward. Whether it's a local business or a regional business or an international business, first secure your beach of Normandy. I don't care if you're a jewelry maker, if you're a baker, if you're into making whatever, if you're into distribution, even if you design a new app, target what is your Normandy beach and secure it and really, really own it so that everyone knows. For jewelry, for bakery, or for whatever app, etc., we go here. Then once you build it up, go further out. Very important, people make the mistake who are far more experienced and older that they can go global without understanding local culture, language, and how things work. Think global, act local. So when someone wants to do something globally, find a local partner. Just because someone's English doesn't mean it's the same English that you speak. And just because you may work on a Friday or Saturday or Sunday doesn't mean in that country that they work on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. All those little nuances make a difference.
What business books that had a major influence on you would you recommend to young entrepreneurs?
I'll tell you books that I recommend. Many people that I know when they graduate from high school in the United States, I gift to them a book from a world-famous author. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Theodore Geisel, whose name most people know as Dr. Seuss. Have either one of you ever heard of Dr. Seuss?
Of course, the iconic cartoons.
So there's a book he wrote, one of the books he wrote, it's called Oh, the Places You Go. Now, when one reads that as a child, one reads that as someone who's 17, 18, 19, 20 years of age, it really is about life and about entrepreneurship and a variety of things that encompass both of them. So that's a book I recommend to everyone. I recommend also reading books about biographies in history, learning what other people did. So, some of the ones that come to mind, let's say if you read the book about Steve Jobs or Jack Welch, or if one's doing things internationally, there are many books out there about, people who've done interesting things. Their biographies or autobiographies, books about history. Those are really insightful. I think TED Talks are excellent. And they're all over the world, and they're all on YouTube. Highly recommend TED Talks because more people they want to hear things, or they'll watch it while they're working out or doing something else. And listening to how a lot of people present is superb.
We have come to the end of today's discussion, which I found extremely insightful and highly engaging. On behalf of the Global Young Entrepreneur Society, Stephen Hirth, thank you very much for speaking with us today. And it was great reconnecting with you.
Daniel, Kirsten Sapen, Lewis, pleasure. I don't know how to say in Scottish, goodbye, or I'm sure there's some slang, but to both of you and to all of you who are the young entrepreneurs, continued success. I look forward to reading about how successful some of you are, and more importantly, how positively impactful and transformative you and your members will be.